what matters most during an earthquake? Most people will probably say the magnitude of the earthquake, and the magnitude is important, and that's why a lot of people focus on it. But magnitude is not always a great indication of an earthquake's impact. So, to understand why, we need to go back through a little bit of background. Now, every earthquake has one magnitude. That's the amount of energy released during the earthquake. And generally speaking, higher magnitude earthquakes produce more shaking and more intense shaking over a broader area. And that's why they get a lot of focus. But there are other factors that are critical to consider when thinking about the potential impact of an earthquake. Some of these factors are where the earthquake occurs, the local rock and soil conditions, and the vulnerability of the area where the strongest shaking happens. So, to illustrate the importance of these different factors, let's look at three different California earthquakes: the Northridge earthquake, the Loma Prieta earthquake, and the Hector Mine earthquake. All of these earthquakes happened between 1989 and 1999, but I'm willing to bet that most of you have never even heard of the Hector Mine earthquake. And that one was actually the largest of those earthquakes. It was a magnitude 7.1, which means it released twice as much energy as the magnitude 6.9 Loma Prieta earthquake and four times more energy than the magnitude 6.7 Northridge earthquake. But the Hector Mine earthquake occurred out in the desert, and the strongest, most damaging shaking was far from major population centers. So it didn't cause any deaths, and it actually caused very little damage to infrastructure. So for most people, it was not impactful, and it was honestly pretty forgettable. So let's compare that to the Northridge earthquake. This was a magnitude 6.7, but it happened directly underneath a densely populated area in Southern California. So even though it was a smaller magnitude earthquake than Hector Mine, it caused far more damage. 60 people lost their lives, more than 9,000 people were injured, and there were tens of $billions worth of damage done. Many of the casualties that occurred happened at the Northridge Meadow Apartments, which was a type of structure that was vulnerable to earthquake shaking. Now let's compare that to the Loma Prieta earthquake. This was a magnitude 6.9 earthquake that happened near Santa Cruz, and it did cause significant damage in Santa Cruz, which is the largest city near the epicenter. And that's where most people would rightly assume that the strongest shaking occurs, right? But there was also significant shaking and damage in Oakland, over 50 miles away. That included the collapse of part of the Nimitz Freeway. So, this is because of the local rock and soil conditions in Oakland. The soft bay muds amplified the earthquake shaking, causing significant impacts even far away from the epicenter. The Loma Prieta earthquake killed 63 people and caused about $6 billion worth of damage. So, when we're thinking about earthquake impact, magnitude is only one piece of the puzzle. It is important to remember that everywhere in California can experience strong earthquake shaking. If you feel shaking or receive an earthquake alert, drop down to the ground, take cover underneath a sturdy object like a table, and hold on until all the shaking has stopped. Don't be scared. Be prepared.